Yes, I know what you want. Exactly what everyone else wants. Especially those sensationalist reporters who sit around every corner, licking their fingers at what I have to say, as if I could say anything about why something happened the way it did. But nobody cares about that either. Oh no, it's all about blaming someone, and who better to blame than the mother? I'll tell you, nobody. Fathers are never to blame if something is wrong with the child. If everything is going well, if the child is good at school or in sports, oh yes, that's the father's achievement. But don't let the offspring go crazy. Then of course it's the mother's fault. And do you know who's to blame? Freud, or whatever that buffoon is called. His whole theory that boys want to crawl back into their mothers. I don't know. Anyone who says something like that has got a big chip on their shoulder. But we also know who's to blame for him saying something like that. His mother. Of course. Who else? That's the way it is. And now the same thing is happening to me, as if it was me who was the problem, as if I had told the boy what to do with the poor girls. He came up with it all by himself. It wasn't my fault or his father's, who, as I'm sure you all know, ran off when I got pregnant. What a coward! When I think about it, my poor Leon could have gotten it from his father after all. There's nothing like that in my family. In Leon's father's family, you want to know? Yes, of course. I shouldn't have gotten involved with that sleazy guy. But then I would never have had Leon. My sweet little Leon. How could all this have happened? You know, the birth was anything but easy. He was... what? You ask, what does this have to do with the story? Do you want to hear what I have to say? Then you have to listen to everything. My goodness. Today's young people have no patience at all. Don't you, Elias? Don't look so embarrassed. You know, Detective, your colleague Elias used to play with Leon all the time, since... I can't remember exactly. Since you were walking around in diapers, and now I'm looking at this gorgeous boy in his uniform. I'm sure your mother is proud of you. Oh, I'm digressing again. Could I have a glass of water, please? All this talking always makes me thirsty. Or maybe something stronger? What? You don't have anything stronger? Well, no wonder you all look so dazed. A sip from the right bottle wouldn't do any harm to your mood. Thank you, my boy. If you could get hold of some cookies while you're at it, I'd be very grateful. No? Well then, I'll carry on so that we can all go home again. Although I don't know if what I have to say will help in any way. Whatever, I was in labor for 38 hours. I wanted to die. I can tell you that, but you men will never understand. Be happy about that. You'd die from a man flu. You wouldn't survive a birth by a long shot. They always say that after giving birth, the body releases hormones that make the mother forget how bad the event is. Well, 34 years later, I'm still waiting for those hormones to finally kick in so I can put the memories behind me. But maybe it was better that I couldn't forget. Otherwise, I might have gone back for more. Maybe they would have been just like Leon. My goodness, another one like him. Don't get me wrong, I love my boy. But it's not so nice what he did there. And you never know what will happen to the little ones. You can only ever guess. The birth was indescribably painful, and I had to go through it alone. As you know, Leon's father had ran away, and my mother wanted nothing more to do with me when I told her I was pregnant. As if I was the first unmarried woman this had ever happened to. He wasn't a wanted child, but at some point he announced himself and was on his way. And it was a good thing. Not a situation in which you have to think about whether to keep the child or sin before God. Interesting when you think about how many lives would have been saved if this one had been eliminated. But no, Leon was a gift from God. Of course, my mother didn't understand. I was a disgrace to the family. She couldn't show her face in church now, blah, blah, blah. You know, in the end, it was good to be disowned. I didn't want to stay in that stuffy household anyway. Everyone was always so happy-go-lucky. But that wasn't the case. Mom drank too much, and my father, God rest his soul, lashed out more than once. Sometimes my siblings and I couldn't sit down for days. Our bottoms hurt so much. We hadn't even done anything wrong. That was the worst about the whole thing. But he never believed us. When Dad came home from work, Mom always told him wild stories about all the things we'd done. Dad didn't even ask us what had happened. No, he always took off his belt and beat us up straight away. And Mom watched and grinned. Freud should have written about that. What kind of mother does that? In those moments, I swore I would never do that to my children. Oh, no, sir. I never wanted to do that. And I didn't either. So, I don't know what makes everyone think that I had anything to do with Leon's circuit exploding. Oh, he's such a good boy. Are you sure that everything the media is saying is true? But evidence can also be faked. Have you ever thought about that? Someone could have framed my little boy. Air and watertight. Well, I don't know. It all seems very strange to me. But if you say so, Elias, you don't need to look so smug. As if you weren't there when you tortured Mrs. Bremer's dachshund to death behind her barn. What, Mr. Detective? You didn't know that about Elias? Elias. I thought you had to be honest as a police officer. Oh, God, how much your poor mother cried back then. And Mrs. Bremer's screams when she found her beloved dog. My goodness. I didn't understand all the commotion back then. It was just a dog. Herbert was such a spoiled beast. The name alone. Who calls a dachshund Herbert? Well, if you ask me, Mrs. Bremer didn't have all of her cups together anymore, the way she dressed. Puh. But that doesn't really matter right now, or? My son has always said that I'm digressing all the time. Maybe he's right, but life is just too varied and colorful to always stay on the same path, isn't it? Get to my age first, then you'll understand. In any case, I was glad that the dog was no longer barking all the time. That penetrating barking that echoed through the neighborhood day and night. Really, day and night. It's a miracle that it didn't drive Mrs. Bremer herself crazy. Although she had a screw or two loose. It drove me to despair. You really did me a favor by turning off the tap on that awful mutt. Why are you blushing so much now, Elias? Don't worry, I won't mention the poker or the pruning shears you used. Ha, how easy it was to cut off the tail. Your mother bought real quality. Did you ever tell her that you got them from her cellar? Or did you just put them back? Elias, say something. What? That doesn't matter? Yeah, well, just protect the kid. How do I know all this? You want to know? My boy told me, of course. Yes, even about the dog's tail. And that wasn't the only thing you did, was it, Elias? The things Leon told me about what you both did after school. Little Susie Miller is still suffering from it today. It's a good thing no one ever found out it was you. Otherwise, they would have sent you away. Oh, yes. And when I think back to the fire in the barn where all the calves were burnt to death, those were wild times. Even if it was years ago, rascals remain rascals. Maybe that also explains what's going on with Leon. But no, I don't think so. A rascal makes harmless pranks, but it's not a harmless prank to cut out someone's liver. Anyway, after the agony of the birth, they put Leon in my arms. I knew his name the moment I saw his little snub nose and tiny hands. He was simply a Leon. There was no shaking that. You know, when you hold this little bundle of humanity in your arms, how can you know what will become of them? You do your best. You always try to protect it. But the world is cruel. The world has fangs and snaps at you whenever it can. That was a lesson Leon had to learn early on. The way they used to torment him in elementary school was heartbreaking. Especially that Marwin Keller. My boy cried himself to sleep more than once because of this horrible child, until at some point, I couldn't take it anymore. Nobody does that to my baby. So I took the keys and went to school to wait for the bell. I can still hear Marwin's howling and whimpering even today. There wasn't much of the bully left to recognize. The squealing, the pleading, and the snot running out of his nose as he lay there in the dirt. It was wonderful. After that, He didn't touch my Leon again, and it was better that way. Otherwise, I would have waited for him on his way home. I made that very clear to him. But he never dared to go anywhere near Leon again. That was definitely worth the ban from school and the fine. I don't regret it and would do it again and again. The self-confidence alone that Leon gained as a result. He hasn't put up with anything since that day. I hope he's the reason why other children have cried themselves to sleep. It's pretty cold in here, isn't it? Elias, be so kind and close the window. After all, it's not summer. Fresh air or not, but I don't have to freeze to death. It's bad enough that I'm cooped up in this room. Pretty bleak, if I do say so myself. A bit of greenery would really help the atmosphere in here. A fern or a box tree. Plastic will do. I know how sloppy you men are when it comes to watering. You can get the plastic things cheaply in this big furniture store, so the state coffers won't suffer quite so much. Or a few pictures. I thought interrogation rooms were supposed to look friendly so you feel comfortable. Could I have another glass of water? I need to take my pills. They're in my handbag. Yes, Elias. Please give them to me. No, it's not the green ones. It's the white ones. No, not them either. The small rounds. Yes, exactly. Thank you. What kind of pills are these? Young man, that's none of your business, and you shouldn't ask that. Anyway, I'm here to tell you the truth. So, let me see. The green ones stop the trembling, the big white ones are for the heart pounding, and the small rounds make everything a bit calmer inside me. Do you understand that? Well, I don't really understand it either, but the doctor thought I needed them. I don't usually just listen to what some quack tells me, but it was one of the conditions back then so that Leon could stay with me. Since then, I've been taking them twice a day. In any case, it doesn't make me feel any calmer, no matter what the package leaflet says. Of course, I would never admit this to the smock-wearing, conceited guy with the bought doctorate. When I go there once a week, it's just, yes, sir. But of course. And I'm definitely feeling better. He believes it, and I can go back home to my Leon. Thank you, Elias. Please put my bag to one side again. It has to be tidy. That's what my grandma always said. I never really liked her. She was a real dragon, but she was still my grandma. At least she was right about that. I always tried to teach Leon that too, but it wasn't necessary. Leon has always been a very neat boy. He can't stand mess at all. Even at mealtimes, he always cut his sausage into equal-sized pieces. Otherwise, he couldn't eat. You have to imagine that. A 10-year-old boy who gets a screaming fit because he has to eat a sausage in a bun. He screamed and raved until I took the stupid sausage out of his hand and cut the darn thing into equal slices. Equal-sized pieces. Very important. Only then did he stop shouting and eat it dutifully. The others may have looked stupid, but you know what? I didn't care. I also didn't care about people talking when he got older and became strange in the eyes of the neighbors. Yes, I put the quotation marks in deliberately. Leon is just not like the other children. He wasn't interested in sports or girls. You can find that strange, but it's nobody's business. People like to shoot their mouths off, you know that. It was nobody's business whether Leon hung out with his friends after school, as the cool kids call it these days. He preferred to play in the forest, and that made me very proud. It was better for him to be out in the woods and let his creativity run wild than just playing those shooting games. No, sir, I would never have bought my boy a console like that, and the nice thing was that he never wanted one. Leon liked animals, nature. The stories he used to tell me about all the animals he found in the woods around our house. I never thought it would be so lively out there. At some point, he even made traps to catch them. I don't know what he did with the animals, but I suspect it was something like Herbert the Dachshund. Or Elias. You were there one time or another. You both used to storm into the kitchen hungry, and I'd make you some sandwiches. Oh, those were good times. The way you guys always smiled, the smell of sweat and freshly cut grass. Wonderful. But how dirty you always were. How often I scrubbed body fluids and dirt stains out of your pants. But I loved doing it because it meant you had a nice childhood, and that's the most important thing. Those were still carefree days, for me and for you. I like to think back to when you still needed me, even if it was just to make sandwiches and mend pants. It's a nice feeling to be needed. Yes, that may sound strange, but that's the way it is, and I don't apologize for it, even if people think I'm weird. It doesn't matter. Let people think what they want. As Leon got older, he started to show an interest in girls. He's already a good-looking boy with good manners. So I wasn't surprised when he started bringing girls home. Leon had a knack for finding the girls who were new in town. He's always been clever. I am of the opinion that he is highly gifted. Mrs. Schmidt, his fifth-grade teacher, such a stupid cow, if you'll allow me to say so, simply didn't notice how brilliant my son was. She actually let him repeat a grade, even though Leon is highly gifted. Highly gifted. A test? No, we never did that. Why would we? If you know it, then you just know it. You don't need a proof. Just the way he lured all the girls to our house. That was simply brilliant. Staying in school or not. Real intelligence doesn't always have anything to do with academic performance. Yes, I know he doesn't have a diploma. And yes, before you think you're coming around the corner with this, I also know that he doesn't have a proper education. But he likes working in the butcher's shop. He says it makes him happy to see what he can do with his hands and that he can take care of me. We don't have that much money, but we're happy, and that's the main thing. How many people can say that about themselves? Even if Leon has to get his hands dirty. Don't roll your eyes, Elias. It's an honest and decent job. And you shouldn't turn up your nose just because you're wearing a uniform. It doesn't make you any better. The next time I see your mother, I'll have a few words with her. Uniform or not, she should show you how to behave. Don't get snippy with me now. I'll go on in a minute. But I practically helped raise this brat, so I'm allowed to tell him off when he misbehaves. What a fuss. Sorry, of course I don't want to be abusive, but it's all a bit unusual what's going on in my life at the moment. Leon is all I have, and you're saying he's done such bad things. I can't really imagine that it was that bad. I mean, nobody really missed the girls. Don't be so impatient. I'm already going on. They were lovely girls that Leon brought home with him. Very decent and lovely. They said hello politely and asked how I was. Really, really decent. As far as I'm concerned, Leon could have brought someone home more often if it hadn't always been for the cleaning up and all the blood. Leon took care of the bodies, but all the blood. My goodness, it was hard to get it out of the carpet. Luckily, Leon has a dark gray carpet in his room. I didn't think it was so great at the time. After all, he shouldn't live in a tomb. But he insisted, so he got his carpet. Now, looking back, I'm glad. Just imagine how difficult it would have been to get the blood out of the beige carpet I would have chosen. No, Leon made a good choice. Incidentally, I can highly recommend this stain remover. Apply it, work it in, leave it to work for a few hours, and then simply vacuum over it, like new. I've always managed to get rid of all stains with it. It didn't matter how much the Leon was messing around, and believe me, sometimes there was a lot going on. It was pretty loud sometimes, but you know what? I like it when there's something going on in the house. It's always so quiet. Oh, what's that cleaner's name again? I'll have a look at home. Your wives will thank me. This stuff is an enlightenment. What are you looking so funny about now, Elias? I know at your age you're still crazy, but at some point you'll get to an age where you're interested in household tips. At least until you have a good woman by your side. But I'm sure you'll find one. You're a good-looking young man. Why did I clean up after him? What kind of stupid question is that? Should I have left it like that? The carpet is a few years old, but it's still in perfect condition. I don't see the point in throwing money out the window for something that just needs a good clean. Why didn't I call the police? Why would I do that? They wouldn't have come and helped me clean it, would they? That's ridiculous. Ever since my mother kicked me out, I've been taking care of my household on my own. What? That's not the point. Then what is it about? What? Benefits? What are you talking about? I cleaned. That's all. I didn't help with anything. My boy made a mess and I cleaned up after him. That's all. Arrested? What's this nonsense now? Are you one of those Freudians too? It's not my fault. That's ridiculous. Don't touch me. Don't you? Elias, take your hands off me. Don't you dare put those things on me. Ouch. That's too tight. My rights? You've got to be kidding me. Wait, when I've spoken to my lawyer, you can get your... Ouch! Don't do that. I haven't done anything wrong. Elias, stop it. I'm going to tell your mother.
I am Maggie J, and you're listening to Thrill, Suspense, Crime, and more. If you like what you hear, subscribe to my channel for a new story every week.